On Start Scale Succeed, I'm joined by Catherine Erdly, founder of the Resilient Retail Club, and we are chatting about how to prepare for Black Friday, what you need to think about, and alternatives if it's not something that you want to get involved in. So, Catherine, before we start, I know we've had a quick discussion in terms of we've both got a long history of working in retail, but can you tell the listeners a bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Catherine Erdly. I'm the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership for product businesses. And this is my 21st year in the retail industry. I started back in 2000, working for Laura Ashley. I worked my way up, worked in a variety of different high street companies, both in the UK and actually in the US. Until the end of 2017, I was working at Paperchase, running their stationery team. And I decided to start my own business. I basically wanted more flexibility. I was a full-time working mother for a decade, and I just felt like I needed a change and I needed to have a bit more flexibility. So in early 2018, I started my own business. And from there, really, I have been working exclusively with independent retailers and brands, helping them with all things to do with profitability, so stock management, strategy, pricing, profitability, planning, all the P's. And I am also a small business retail expert. So I am a Forbes contributor on the subject of starting and scaling a product business. I'm also a Small Business Britain Small Business Champion, a sales trainer for Enterprise Nation's School of Sales. And I love to write and speak about the retail industry as well. So it's something I feel really passionate about and excited about, because there are so many exciting independent brands and startups who are doing some really fascinating things in this space.
I have to mention as well, and we were just talking about it, if you are thinking about starting a business, if you've already started a business, Catherine has an amazing report. I think, was it about 300
businesses, yes.
Answered the question. So if you kind of want to understand where you sit, how much kind of generally it costs people to start a business.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really valuable tool. So you should check out her website, and we'll put the link to that in the show notes later on. But I've completely digressed. So I'm going to go back to the subject of Black Friday. And so obviously one of the key promotional times of the year, but very different this year, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if we had a Black Friday last year, I can't remember if the shops were open or not. How do you think Black Friday will differ this year versus last year?
Well, I think Black Friday is a really fascinating phenomenon because, of course, it's totally borrowed from the US. It's the day after Thanksgiving. So various different theories about the why it was called Black Friday, but a lot of people think it's because that's the day the shops went into the black finally for the whole year. They've been trading in the red and they went into the black because in the US it usually signals the start of the Christmas shopping season. So Christmas shopping is actually slightly delayed in the US because they're all waiting for Thanksgiving, and then they get their Thanksgiving out of the way and boom, head to the shops. So it was a fairly recent import to the UK, and probably the last 5 to 10 years it's been getting more, growing in awareness. I was going to say growing in popularity, but I struggle to say that because a lot of people feel quite conflicted about it.
Yeah.
I think though we've seen the interest in it waning slightly. I think it's become sort of associated with tiring, overconsumption. A lot of research has shown that some of these offers, or a lot of the offers that people put out there, are not really true offers, that maybe these items have been offered at lower prices other times of the year. So I think there's definitely a little bit of consumer weariness about it. So I think that it will still remain an important date in the shopping calendar that people will be thinking of. But I think over time we'll see fewer people participating, or maybe we'll see them participating in different ways.
And obviously there's a lot of, if people that want to play into Black Friday, how do you think that they should prepare for that?
Well, the key thing about Black Friday, or the key thing about really any promotions that you have in your business, is that what I always say is that promotions look like they're for the customer, but they're really there for the business. So by that, I mean that if strategically it works for you to offer maybe 2 discounts a year, maybe you have a business birthday and Black Friday, or maybe you do Mother's Day and Black Friday, and those are the only time of the year that you do a discount, and you want to go all in and participate in the Black Friday event, I think that's absolutely fine. But again, it has to be something that works for you and works for your business, and you don't want to be giving away more margin than you can afford. So if it doesn't work for you to do a 30% discount, don't do it, all of these things. So I think, first of all, I would ask yourself the question, what does my business need from Black Friday? Do you need to participate? Actually, are you doing fine did you do fine without it last year? Or could you use it, for example, strategically to clear some stock that you don't want to be sitting on post-Christmas? So I quite often talk about this idea of brown bananas. So there's certain stock that, this is something that I got from my days at Paper Chase, there's certain stock that on the 26th of December becomes completely undesirable. So it's the thing that says Merry Christmas, that the only people buying that on the 26th of December are the people who are hoping to get it at 50% off to put in their Christmas box for next year. So, for example, one of the ways that you could use Black Friday strategically in your business is if you know that you've got maybe a bit too much of that seasonal stock left that you want to clear through, maybe you decide that you're going to do a discount on it then. But the key thing really when it comes to preparing for Black Friday is not to get caught up in the rush of it, not to be making these decisions last minute, to be making these discounting or promotional decisions as part of a bigger promotional strategy that you've planned out for the whole of the Christmas season. And just really ask yourself, again, bear in mind, it's not for the customer. It looks like it's for the customer, but really it's for you. What do you need to move in your business? What do you need to actually happen on Black Friday? And therefore, what offer do you need to make, as opposed to just trying to kind of go with the flow, or get caught up in that, oh my goodness, everyone's doing something, so I have to do something.
So taking that time out, and like you said, making sure that it's part of a bigger promotional calendar. But if people haven't done that, that they just take a step back, look at their best and worst sellers, look at how many weeks stock that they've got left of those more seasonal items, and then put in place a plan and make sure that they've got their ads right, and all that side of things, and moving those brown bananas, as you say.
Yes, absolutely.
I like that expression. And do you think, can it be profitable for brands?
Oh yes, absolutely. It can definitely be profitable for brands, or it can play a part in an overall profitability strategy. I mean, especially if you've got a decent profit margin. One of the key underpinnings, or one of the key factors that will determine whether or not a product business is successful is whether or not they're making enough money every time they make a sale. So that's looking at their profit margin, making sure you know what percentage, when you sell something for £10, £20, £100, what percentage of that is profit, and making sure you know those numbers. That's kind of business basics, if you like. But that will also help you at times like Black Friday, because the bigger your profit margin is to start off with, the more room you have got to, say, take 20% off and still make a profit. So it absolutely can be profitable. It could also be a reasonably profitable way of shifting some stock that you might otherwise have to discount more heavily at an end of season sale. So most big retailers, when you see their Black Friday offers, especially if they're like a, selection, often in fashion brands, you'll see, seasonal discounts, and you get certain styles will be discounted for Black Friday, for example. Well, that will be because those items have already been flagged as things that they know they're going to have to clear in the end of season clearance sale. So what they're trying to do there is they're trying to offer it to the customer at a slightly smaller discount, maybe 20% instead of 50%. And therefore clear through it in a more profitable way than holding on to it at full price and then being forced to clear it later at a lower price. So it's about exactly everything that you said, knowing what your best and worst sellers are, knowing how much stock you've got of those, knowing how many weeks worth of sales that equates to, knowing where you've kind of got those lumps of stock, or what I think about is like frozen cash, like where's the money stuck in your business, and making sure those are the ones you're targeting. If you're targeting on those, then it absolutely can be profitable. What gets tricky is when people do things like slap on 25% discount just because they're worried they're not going to sell anything if everyone else is doing discounts, and the customer comes and buys their best sellers anyway that they're going to buy anyway, but they bought it at 25% less, and that's when it could get sticky for businesses. So I think being really focused on what do I need to shift, and how much can I afford to sell it for?
And I mean, I've worked in retailers where promotional product has been bought specifically for Black Friday, and it has been brought in at a slightly inflated price to then, and in high volumes, to then clear it at Black Friday and have something there. What do you think for a small business? Would you advise something like that, or would you advise them to stay away from it?
I think that's that's a very tricky thing for a small business to do, and I think it probably goes against what a lot of them are trying to do. With many businesses are very concerned about overconsumption and not wanting to get people to buy just for the sake of buying. So I would say that it's a very tricky, I think it's much easier to do when you've got the kind of volume
of traffic,
that you've got with a big retailer. But I think for most small retailers, that's going to, I'd say there's probably a lot of risk associated with that, because of course if it doesn't sell through, then you could be end up with a lot of product and not necessarily where you want to be.
But I suppose on the other side of that, it's if you've got a gap and I'm not talking about particularly if you've on low stocks around Black Friday, even if you don't want to discount, that's going to be a high traffic time online. So if there's an opportunity where you see stock that you can buy that's aligned with your business values, aligned with who your customer wants, and is the right price for what it needs to be, it's taking advantage of those opportunities so that you have the stock to sell as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one of the things that does work, because what tends to happen with Black Friday, one of the kind of negative impacts of it is that you tend to get the Black Friday dead spot, which is just the week of Black Friday, where customers are just waiting. They are just waiting to see what happens. And it may not even necessarily be that they're waiting and they're only going to buy if there's a discount. It's just that why would you buy something on a Tuesday if on the Friday that possibly you might get a discount from the business? So there's a couple of things that can help with that. If you're not planning on participating on Black Friday, it may well be worth talking to your customers about that and just saying, give them your reasoning. As a small business, we don't really feel that Black Friday works with our values. Therefore, just to let you know, if you're waiting for a discount on Friday, we won't be participating. Something around those lines, that way, that sounds quite positive and upbeat, but just makes it clear to them that you don't have to wait until Friday because there's nothing coming. The other thing that can work quite well, one of the only other ways I think to kind of stimulate sales, is to bring something new in the week just before Black Friday, because it kind of gives people that sense of something new and exciting, a reason to come and shop with you, as opposed to them just waiting around to see whether or not you're going to be offering a discount.
And for people that don't want to play into Black Friday, what are the alternatives that they can offer their customers? I'm not talking about a discount, but what other kind of like I said, there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people online at that time. So what are the things that they can do to help promote their business and promote sales? And even if it's just more promoting that connection as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think if you want to see the masterclass on how this is done really, really well, then I would check out Lucy and Yak, the dungaree brand, especially at Black Friday, because what they actually do is they don't offer a discount, but they offer that this weekend they're going to be doing 10% of sales donation to something like that, I forget the exact numbers, to a charity that they work with in India that's funding children's education. And they do a brilliant job of it. So they make it very clear it's not going to be a discount, but if you buy this weekend, it's an extra charitable donation. And then throughout the weekend, they update you. Oh, you've sent 10 girls to school or 20 girls to school.
Yeah.
So it's this real kind of sense of community, this sense of, people are doing good things. And it's phenomenally effective. People will come and buy because they know that there's additional charitable discount. So it's a great feel-good factor. It's a great message to kind of cut through a bit of that Black Friday noise. It's not about discounting. It's about something very positive. So that could be a really good opportunity for somebody who doesn't want to offer a discount. If you want to offer something that's to the customer that's not necessarily money off, then there's all kinds of things like free postage can be good, free gift wrapping, or maybe a free upgrade to more premium wrapping if you offer that already. You could offer things like a small gift with purchase, so this weekend only. If you spend over £75, then you'll receive this item, or a competition or a giveaway, something like that. So there's lots of different options. If you don't want it to be a straight blanket, 20% off everything, which is almost like that's probably one of the most effective things you can do for stimulating sales, but also one of the things you should use most frequently, because those blanket discounts can be really hard, especially if people come and just buy your bestsellers anyway. If you don't want to offer something like that, then there are all kinds of different ways that you can have that conversation. Or it could be about, you know, a special product, like a special price on one product for the weekend that you just
you could choose a hero product.
Yeah.
And really promote and drive that. And then I suppose from a good point of view as well is if you're doing some advertising, you're putting the advertiser behind that particular product, you're driving that, and then you're getting your sales on that rather than just doing something that's like a blanket offer. I think as well, like we said at the beginning, there's a lot of people and shoppers have become quite weary of the whole noise around Black Friday, and particularly from the sustainability and the ethical side. So doing something that's the charity side, or a lot of people have called it Green Friday, where they're doing something that's from an ecological benefit. I know Allbirds did it a couple of years ago. They I don't think they ever play into Black Friday. It's completely against what they stand for as a brand in terms of their sustainable trainer brand. And what they did was, I think they actually emptied their Covent Garden store of stock, and they had it as a day of education, and it was and they gave money towards a particular kind of ecological charity, but it was about educating rather than that, you know, buy and get this discount, And I think the thing is as well, it's starting so much earlier than just Black Friday now. You start hearing about things on, you know, it's not Black Friday, it's whatever Thursday or whatever Tuesday, and then you've got Cyber Monday, and it really goes on for like weeks and weeks. But I think because, I mean, some people that may not know that there's been so many issues with freight at the moment in China and bringing goods in. So I think this year it might look quite different, and maybe bigger retailers might pretend to be sustainable or do in a different way, but actually all their stock is still on the water that they would have planned to have sold. But I think it will look quite different this year to what it has done other years, just because there's a lack of, you know, there's so many freight issues of people bringing stock in, and they want to protect those full price Christmas sales, you know, for later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all it's really done, Black Friday, is moved sales out of December into November. For many years, December was the biggest retail month, and recent years it's shifted into November purely because of the promotional activity. But it's kind of a zero-sum game. A lot of retailers will have been putting two and two together and realizing that between November and December, they're not making any more money. It's just shifted it forward. So if it doesn't suit them to shift that forward this year, then they probably will hold off on some of that messaging. And then, as you said, be able to protect those full price sales. I think the key thing to remember as well is that there's also Small Business Saturday, which comes the following week after Black Friday, and that it just suits so many businesses better, because again, it doesn't have to be about discount. It could be about community, about sharing other small businesses. The people like Just a Card, for example, last year did a big campaign where they did Just a Card week, which again was sort of like, because of the name, the Black Friday, you know, the small business community is often very colorful, so they sort of talk about, like, you know, Rainbow Week and this kind of thing, or just sort of something that goes against the sort of Black Friday ethos. So I definitely think it'll be interesting to see this year. But I think the key thing as well is that no business should really feel the pressure to be part of it. I don't think that's even seen as relevant for a lot of small businesses, but it's just a question, as you said so rightly, this is a high volume traffic time of year. So what are you setting out to tempt your customers?
How can you be seen in the noise? You know, with all, you know, with all those people that are on, you know, use the opportunity while there are so many people online at that time, but what can set you apart and what should you be talking about? And I think it's thinking about that in your advertising, in your social media messaging, and rather than thinking, right, the week of Black Friday, okay, crap, it's on Friday. What am I going to do? Oh, that's a bit slow. Should I do that? Oh, right. If I do that, if I reduce it to that, I'm not making any money. What do I, you know, and it's about kind of being a bit more prepared and thinking about what suits your brand, what suits your numbers, what suits your audience, and what feels right for you as a business, rather than doing something, like you say, just because everybody else may be doing something, you know.
Absolutely. And also, you know, thinking about what else have you got going on. Are you taking part in an online fair or market or something like that? A lot of these have been popping up. Well, if you're planning on doing that, or even one of the bigger shopping events, like last year Red magazine had a big online shopping event, so maybe you want to offer a discount coupon for that weekend in line with the event that you're doing, and you don't do it on Black Friday. You know, what kind of fits with your brand? It doesn't have to be, definitely doesn't all have to be at the same time. It's got to be what makes sense for you. And and don't feel, as I said, don't feel the pressure.
And so let's pretend Black Friday's out of the way and then you've got 4 weeks left to Christmas.
Yes.
How should small brands, small retailers, startups be preparing for that?
Well, I think that is the time of year where you want to be in a position to do absolutely nothing else than sell and dispatch and delight your customers. So it's anything that you can possibly do from soon, as early as possible, to get everything else out of the way. You don't want to be worrying about your business insurance or your having to renew your domain or anything at all. Basically, you want all of those tasks out of the way and done so that you can just focus in on one thing only, which is your customer and selling at this time of year. I think the other thing that's important as you move closer to Christmas is communication around last shipping dates if you're selling online, cut-off dates, when are you stopping? If you have personalized items, when's the cut-off for those? All of those things, just being really, really clear and communicating them over and over again, just so that the customer's really aware, because it gets very hectic. Last year we had Shipmageddon, so we had like the meltdown of basically every postal carrier in the UK and the US. They just all were so overwhelmed. I think people were telling me, in March stuff was turning up from that Christmas.
Oh, jeez.
It was the biggest ever quarter for e-commerce in the history of ever
of e-com, history of the internet.
So it was intense. A lot of small businesses had to cut off. They just couldn't cope. I spoke to so many people who, sort of first week of December just said, I don't want to spend my last week when I'm supposed to be with my family and relaxing before Christmas, fielding queries from people asking them where's
your parcel?
Where's my parcel?
Where's my underwear? Where's my toys?
So it's thinking about, for you as a business owner, when do you want to cut off? Were you happy with if this is your second or more than your second year trading? Are you happy with your careers? Do you need to do any research to get to find any new ones? Although, to be honest, if you're doing that in sort of October, November, it's possibly too late. But just thinking, doing whatever you can to prepare yourself, being really clear with your customer about what your dates are, and also maybe deciding for yourself as a business owner what's going to be your cutoff date and when do you need to stop, and all of those things I think can just help you have a smoother time as possible into Christmas, although it is always a little crazy.
And I think as well, getting your space ready. So if you are picking and packing yourself, making sure that you've got all that stuff, your mailers, you've got everything organized, and doing as much kind of pre-work to that. So if you're sending out subscription box or box product, you have the boxes ready with the tissue paper, you've got the space to do that. So it's literally just packing rather than picking, well, obviously you have to pick it anyway, but that you've got your space ready, that where you work in, or where you pack the product, or if it's a fulfillment center that does it for you, that you've had conversations with them, and you might be able to give them an indication of what kind of volume of traffic or volume of orders that might be coming through, so they understand that as well. So I think it's kind of looking at some of those kind of things as well,
and just asking yourself the really basic question: how many orders do I think I'm going to have? So I do this with pretty much all of my clients. We go through and we say, right, this year I've been trading 50% up. Okay, so if I look at last year's Christmas period and I add 50% to that, and I look at my average basket size, my average spend, that equates to how many orders a day? Is it 200 orders a day? Is that 50 orders a day? What is that number? And just working it out like that can just really help focus your thinking, because sometimes I'll talk to people and I'll say, okay, it's 200, or that would be 200 orders. How would that work? And they'll be like, okay, well, I have this person, that person, this person, these people are going to do extra hours for me at Christmas. I actually think we've got capacity to get through 200 orders. Some people, you say 50 orders a day to them and they're like, wait, 50 orders a day? Well, I just can't do that. And then it starts them thinking about, do I need extra space? Do I need to get an extra pair of hands? What needs to happen? So even just as simply as asking yourself, how many orders do I think I'm going to be dispatching a day in the run up to Christmas, based on what I took last year and based on how I'm trading currently this point in the year, and what I know I'm going to be doing or in the business between now and Christmas. Just ask yourself that question and just have a think about how that's actually going to physically work.
And I think as well, a good thing, a lot of people bought Christmas, whether it's gifts or Christmas themed product or whatever, a lot earlier last year than they had done before.
Yeah.
And I think people will be thinking, like the general consumer, whether you've had conversations with Royal Mail or whoever your postal service is, and they might be assuring you, look, there's no problem, but the your average consumer is not going to know that or not. So they may be thinking about buying earlier. So you might decide you might want to do pre-orders on your Christmas products. You might want to you might start getting orders earlier on as well. So just being ready for that. When we were talking about, you really want to be focused on selling.
Yes.
And if 50 orders a day means that you're not going to be doing anything other than packing, you have to get that team in, you have to get someone in so that you can continue talking to your customer.
Yeah.
And, and dealing with the customer service and selling and being visible on Instagram or Facebook or whatever channel that it is that you have to continue driving people to your website as well, because anyone can pack a parcel. Once they've been shown what way you want it done, anyone can pack a parcel. Get your kids involved, whatever it might be, so that you can focus on the things that you need to be visible for as well.
Yeah. And also prepare what you can. So you talk about social media and emails, another one. You could probably sit now and write your Christmas emails and have them all lined up, scheduled, ready to go, so they can just go out. The same with a lot of your posts. Okay, not your Instagram stories, but you could certainly, if you know that you want to have 2 feed posts a week with images from your Christmas photography, then again, get those uploaded. I mean, there's nothing to say that you can't do that. So I absolutely think there's a lot that you can do to prepare yourself, but you're absolutely right. The 2 things, well, packing is for sure the easiest thing to get help with. The second one is the good thing about customer services, especially if you've got sort of limited space to bring extra people in to help with some of these things, customer services is something that often you can get a bit of help with from people who work remotely, for example. So it takes a bit more training than packing, but nonetheless, you can get some support, because obviously that can be a big time drain as well when you're fielding the inevitable "where's my package" questions, even if you've sent them tracking link.
Yeah. And I suppose a good thing to do is update your FAQs on your website to include, you might not want them all year round, but where's my Christmas parcel, or so, it might be something that you want to think about, what are seasonally related questions that people always ask. So, and then update those on your FAQs, and then you could direct people to there first. And if that's not there, then they might go that one step further and contact you for customer service. They'll probably skip all that anyway and contact you straight away anyway, and not look at the FAQs. But
you can also, and also set up an autoresponder on your email.
Yeah.
So that if you've got, and also try and direct people, if you have a busy Instagram account and keeping up with DMs is just too much, say that for customer service, please contact this email address, and then have an autoresponder that says, we check, between these hours, the most commonly questions are XYZ, and these are the answers, and see if you can sort of triage a little bit that way as well.
Yeah, I think it's just so important to keep that communication up, because people know that a small business and businesses are under pressure at those times. They just want the update, they just want the communication. So like you said, if you're saying I'll get back to you between X and X, or we're only saying, they give you that period of grace. They're like, okay, I'm not expecting an answer on that for 2 days, or I'm not, if it's urgent, there's a number to phone. Well, maybe, I don't know whether you'd recommend that, but if it's urgent, that they can do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But if not, then like you say, that they can direct them to here.
It's always good to have a one method for them to contact if it's really urgent. And can you get like a cheap phone that's only job is to be the numbers on your customer service things? It's not like you give them your personal phone number. You could always have a phone that's only purpose is that if somebody has a
burner phone,
basically a Christmas burner phone.
And then after Christmas, it is actually physically burned. He's like, no one is going to bring that number again. I'm not having that number. Okay. And anything else that you think for Black Friday or Christmas that small businesses need to be aware of or be thinking about? I
think it's really just that planning. Just get yourself a planner, work out what your 8-week strategy is. What's your message by week? Do you start off talking about Christmas parties, then go into gifting, then go into the Christmas table? Whatever it is, think about how your messaging will change week on week. Think about when you want to insert any offers. If you want to, you may not. But an offer doesn't always have to be a discount. It can be all kinds of things. It's just an opportunity.
It can be a bundle. It can be,
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a gift set that you only have at Christmas that is a higher price, so it suits you because it's pushing up your average transaction value. So there's all kinds of different things. But I think really the key thing is to have that sort of clarity of thought, if you like, that to go and map it out for yourself, to pre-prepare as much as possible, so that you don't just kind of get into this whirlwind of being tired and overrun and dealing with, you know, snotty customers when you're also trying to think about what you want your messaging to be. That should really all be put to bed before you get into the Christmas rush, so that the Christmas rush can just be about focusing on selling and dispatching.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Catherine. That has been very helpful. And if people want to hear more from you, where can they find you?
So I'm most often found on Instagram at Resilient Retail Club. I've also got a podcast. So if you enjoy listening to podcasts, it's called the Resilient Retail Game Plan. You can find that on iTunes, Spotify, or most podcast platforms. And if you go to resilientretailclub.com, then you can find out more about my membership.
And we will have all of those details in the show notes. So if you have enjoyed listening to Start Scale Succeed podcast, then please leave a review and subscribe, and you'll hear more from me next week. And if you want to know more about me, then you can find me on www.thebuyandretailcoach.com and on Instagram at @thebuyandretailcoach. And thank you very much for listening, and we will chat to you next week.